in the times that we're going through right now. And, I think it's more important than ever to develop your mental toughness. It's, I don't mean to paint a blurry picture of the future, but, I think we're going to hit this point now where only the strong are going to survive. And I don't just mean physically, I mean, psychologically, financially, it's going to require you to have that level of mental toughness. So I brought Manny, my good friend Manny from 2000 Books, on today, and I thought we'd just have a discussion about some of the top books for mental toughness. Manny is, if you don't know, he is the founder of 2000 Books, and he reads basically a book a day, and he has a huge number of books that he's read and summarized on mental toughness. So when I'm looking for, a good book, he's definitely one of my top resources. So welcome, Manny.
Hey, thanks, man. And I want to start off this discussion with a quote that I think is very appropriate to where we are in today's times. Here's what Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic philosopher, he said: "A blazing fire makes flame and bright out of everything that is thrown into it." That is exactly what is going on right now. A lot of people are going to get wiped out because they operate their lives like a candle. But if you choose to operate like a blazing fire, if there's any obstacle in your way, you're going to just consume it. It becomes the fuel for greatness. While a candle, if you throw anything at it, it'll just get wiped out. If you blow a candle, it'll get wiped out. If you put your hand on it, it'll get wiped out. You put a blanket on it, it'll get wiped out most of the times, right? Candle is fragile. Candle cannot handle this stuff. But you need to be a blazing fire. You need to be a forest fire to just say, hey, bring it on, because this is going to be the fuel for my next level of greatness. And that's Marcus Aurelius in Meditations, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, one of the greatest books on building mental toughness. So,
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that's, especially Stoic philosophy has a lot to say. I mean, Stoic philosophy is basically the art of mental toughness, right? It's the idea that you do not allow outside circumstances to determine, what you think internally, and that you're basically impervious. It's becoming invincible to outside circumstances, right? So
yeah, and you use them to your advantage. So you use any situation or challenge to your advantage. And I like, here's the thing. A lot of guys who are struggling right now, they're thinking, hey, yeah, easy for you to say, Manny, easy for you to say, John, but you don't know my situation. Well, let me give a story, or that already. I got laid off 3 different times in my career, 3 different times. And for some of you guys, you probably already know me because I'm originally from India. That means back in the day when I had my jobs, I would, like, if I got laid off, I had 30 days to find a job that was just as good. And if I didn't find a job just as good, I would have to leave the country. Happened to me 3 different times. I tell you, man, one of the best things that ever happened to me every single time. There was a Facebook post of a friend of mine, and he was like, he was talking about the best things that happened to me every single time, because I stepped up, I did better in my life, I made changes, I made moves. It turned out to be a great advantage. So it's not just lip service. It's not just the books that are saying it. Literally, your perception of reality will shape and condition your reality.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's very, very true. It's interesting because, there's that, it reminds me of that old, quote, that story. I don't know, it's unattributed, but the one that basically goes along the lines of, talks about the story of this guy whose son was supposed to go to war, and then he broke his leg or broke his arm, like the horse kicked him, and the neighbors keep on saying, "Oh, that's great," or that's fortunate, or how lucky, right? And he's like, maybe, and then the next thing happens, and it turns out that all of these events, it's up to you to interpret it. Like, is it good or bad? It's not, it's not necessarily good or bad by itself, right? Is it good that your son breaks his arm? A horse kicks him and he breaks his arm. Well, it's good if it keeps him from going to a war where like 90% of the people get killed, but so it's all up to us to decide what the meaning is. I think that's what I get from that, and I think that's the key in these times. Like, you can decide what the meaning is going to be, if it's going to be a good or a bad thing, or what you're going to make of it.
I'm going to give you another quote from the great Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic philosopher. This is probably one of my all-time favorite quotes in life. There's probably a few I'll throw, which I'll say are my all-time favorites, but this is one of them. Here's what he said. He said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. The obstacle is the way forward." This is the ultimate wisdom of life for times like this. You cannot get any more profound than this. The impediment to action advances action. So whatever is in your way right now, whatever the crisis is, that's the way forward. The impediment to action advances action. The impediment to action doesn't just make action a little faster. No, it advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. The obstacle is the way forward. It is so freaking profound that you can on this as you think about this idea, and as you apply it to your life will change as a result of this idea.
Yeah. That's that became the basis of one of the books I think we'll talk about, which is "Obstacle is the Way" by Ryan Holiday. Was that exact quote of Marcus Aurelius? Yeah, I think it's really interesting about just when you think about that. I think of it in terms of racing, right? Like,
he literally wrote a whole book on that topic.
Oh, by the way, guys, if you're listening and Manny's kind of lagging a little bit, he's in India. So he went to go visit his parents and take care of his parents in India during what's been going on. So he's still working, still staying mentally strong, so but yeah, so
hey,
yeah,
it was a heck of a journey, man, but it was worth it.
I bet. Yeah. So I was saying, like, with races, like, it's you always run your fastest in a race, and it's because you have the competition, the obstacle, right? It's like those, like, pushing against someone else is what makes you push forward. It becomes the way. And when you think about it, even like going to the gym and lifting weights, right? The obstacle, like lifting weights would be no good without actual resistance, something pushing against you, gravity pushing against you. The weight of the weights is what we're after. So every time that we're trying to grow, we're trying to make progress, we can't make any progress unless we have an obstacle, something pushing against us, something giving us resistance the other way. In any endeavor in life, we just want the easy street, but we don't realize that we need to actually have the obstacles, because that's what actually causes us to move forward. We won't make any advancement. We won't make any progress. If you're playing chess and you play weak opponents, you're not going to advance. Whatever it is, you need an obstacle in order to actually advance.
Yeah, I think it was Epictetus who said it in Discourses. He said, "Brave men rejoice in adversity, just like soldiers rejoice in wartime." Right? So it's almost like that is the essence of life. When you're living for doing something great with your life, you are hunting these obstacles down in some ways. You're hoping that these things will come your way, and you're going to hunt them down. You're going to make yourself stronger as a result of it. Everything will build your character. Marcus Aurelius said in his book, Meditations, he said, if it's not going to ruin your character, then nothing happened. Like, you cannot, if all it does is ruin, like quote unquote, takes away your wealth or anything, that's not that's not what is called real ruin. The only thing that can really ruin you is if it ruins your character. But the thing is, nothing can ruin your character because it's all within your control, right?
Yeah, I like to
And
think
that's
of
like
it.
the essence of as we
Go ahead. We've got a little bit of a lag here. Slight
shit.
latency.
I guess this is a different streaming software. Usually Zoom is a little different, but the essence of Stoics is differentiate between what's within your control and what's outside your control. The circumstances are never within your control. The outside circumstances will change all your time. But knowing that the outside circumstances are what they are, we can only influence what's within our control and work through them. And we
Exactly.
can only influence our thoughts and our actions and not worry about the external world.
Yeah, I like to think of it as sort of like what you said about the if it doesn't hurt your character, it doesn't matter. You can actually translate that directly to a video game, to an RPG, right? So imagine in an RPG, you level up, right? You kill things, you gain experience. Through experience, you level up. And as you level up, you get some awesome gear. You get this awesome sword, you get this awesome shield, right? You're buffed out, you have all of this equipment, and maybe you die in the game and you lose all your equipment. But guess what? You're still level 35. It doesn't really matter, right? It's still
Hmm.
like you can go back and get the equipment, but being level 35 is what matters, right? Whereas if you're level 1 and you have like awesome equipment and you die, you're screwed. It's over. You have to it's no good. You're not in a good situation, or even having all that equipment. It's the level that you have, and that's the thing that stays with you. It doesn't matter how many times you die. It doesn't matter how many times you lose. That's the thing that you're trying to gain. You're trying to gain the experience. You're trying to level up ultimately, because that's what matters. And it's the same thing. I think a lot of people look at life, and especially I think that's one of the key elements of developing mental toughness is this idea that what I'm actually trying to acquire is character. What I'm actually trying to acquire is my abilities, my things that can't be taken from me. There was a quote, I can't remember the author. I had it on my Instagram, or maybe I've got it scheduled, but it says like, the true value of a man is if you lose everything, what's left. That's like the true measure of a man is what's left after you lose everything. I don't remember the author in there. It's kind of obscure, but I thought that was that really encapsulates this idea.
Yeah, that. I mean, we're right now. The world seems to be in a crisis. People are scared. People are worried. The economy has gone to shit. People are losing jobs left, right, and center. Businesses are going under. Businesses are going down. All of that stuff is going to happen. All of that stuff could have happened anytime. We always had the illusion of control, that there was some control, but
Mm,
the truth is we never had any control, right? And this was just a realization that we never really had a control had any specific control on the outside circumstances. The challenge is a lot of people are addicted to the idea that somehow these external validations are going to, you know or the external conditions are all that life is all about.
yeah,
But it really is the internal work. The external things will just change all the time, and the internal work is not something as simple as just like reading stoicism books or reading meditations or obstacle is the way, but it's more of applying those principles to your life to really see the effects of these things. Like, we're not saying that you should just sit and meditate during times of crisis and just hope that your character will get stronger. No, you're going to grind it out, you're going to do the hard work, but you're going to do the hard work with a completely different perspective, the perspective of a warrior rather than a perspective of a sufferer.
exactly, yeah. And that's key. Talking about another book, Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, right? That's
Hmm.
precisely what he adopted, right? He was in that situation where he was in the concentration camp, and he basically came to the realization that it was up to him to decide to be a victim or not, whether or not he was going to suffer. Suffering was a choice. and that in between the the thing that happened to him and then his response, there was a space, and he got to decide his interpretation of that. And I think that's like the key thing that makes us mentally tough, is that ability to interpret and to have that space in between and to make the decision whether I'm going to suffer or not. I really like, actually, it's kind of interesting. I don't know if you saw this, but London Real, London Real, the guy that does a lot of the interviews. Well, he did this kind of crazy.
Yeah, I saw that.
He did some crazy interview with David Icke. I'm not a big David Icke fan. He's a little bit nutso, but anyway, he did it, and he got banned from. Basically, they took his video off YouTube. They took it off of. He got banned from Facebook and LinkedIn and all, and Dropbox and all this stuff. They're basically, getting rid of him because of that. And he just did a video 2 days ago where he was just finished his run, and he was like, and it was called "I'm Not a Victim." And he basically said, like, yeah, they've done all these things to me, but I'm not a victim. I refuse to be a victim. Despite all these things that happened, whatever, I made the choice to air the interview. I'm not a victim, right? And I thought that was so key to see a real life example of someone actually doing that, because it's interesting, because a lot of people say, oh yeah, you choose suffering, and you read the books on Stoic philosophy, like you're saying, but then when it comes down to it, they don't make the choice. But then you see a guy like this who's put to the test. I mean, he's literally built this company over 10 years. He has like 2 million subscribers on YouTube, big, and he's suffering some pretty bad damage by being blocked from all these, having his LinkedIn removed and all these things. Yet he's choosing at that point to not suffer, to be a warrior instead of a sufferer. And I think that's a clear example.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, the choice is actually within us. We can choose to be. There's a really interesting story in Man's Search for Meaning that I want to share with you guys. In Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, there was a time, like, when he entered the Holocaust, the concentration camps of Auschwitz and Dachau, he was subjected to a lot of misery, a lot of pain, a lot of torture. One time when he was going through some inhumane torture, like the Nazi guys were just abusing him all the way. And
Yep.
in that moment he realized, I'm going to use this to my advantage. What that means was, he started visualizing himself giving a lecture in a room full of really smart people who have come together to learn from him about the psychology of how to suffer bravely, psychology of concentration camps, the psychology of human nature in some ways. So in that moment, while he was going through all of those tortures, once he made up this mind that he was going to use this, every day, every torture was him, okay, this is my job, I take it, because this is what I'm going to use to become, to share this knowledge with the world, right? I need to share this knowledge with the world, and I'm going to do that by learning all about it. And the way I'm going to learn all about it is be subjected to this. So until that moment, he was a victim, and a lot of his fellow victims, and you can, it's very hard for something like a concentration camp to say you're not a victim in that situation, because everything has been taken away from you at that point, right? So most of the concentration people in the concentration camp were not surviving. He was going to, that meaning that this. So ultimately, what we're talking about here is all going to boil down to meaning you give to this whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And for Frankl, the meaning was that use this to my advantage. This is gonna make me a better psychologist, and I'm gonna survive to tell the tale. I'm gonna survive to tell the story of all of this madness, and so be it. If this is what it is, this is what it is. But the meaning for him, it changed in the concentration camp from, oh my God, this sucks, or this is horrible, or this I'm gonna die, or this is like, I can't even imagine, this is what he changed his meaning from being a victim to saying, I'm using this to my advantage. And that's what we all have that power to do that right now in this crisis. By the way, if I'm lagging too much, I can try to switch to my hotspot and see if that works.
I think it's all right. It's just every once in a while it lags a little bit, but not too bad. But yeah, no, what you're saying is absolutely right. I think that's key, especially times like this. In fact, when I coach guys, especially developers, right, when they're complaining about their work, the very first thing that I tell them is, I call it a context shift. That's what I use a lot as a technique that I use, but it's basically the same thing. As I tell them, instead of trying to solve the problem, because they want me to help them find another job, instead I say, conquer this one first. In fact, let's change the meaning of this. Let's change the context. Let's say that this is a trial. Like, you're weak right now. If you're having trouble with this, if this is bothering you, if you can't stand this work environment, let's use this. That's good. That's a good thing, because that means that every day you can go into work and it's a test. It's a trial. It's going to make you stronger. Let's conquer that first, and then we can find you another job, and you'll be able to find a much better job, because this is pointing out your weakness. And so we change it. So now this job that sucks, that feels like it's horrible, now it's exciting, because it's like, okay, what kind of challenges am I going to get with this stupid job, with my dumb boss who says, micromanages me and stuff, and how am I going to deal with it? And it's like, all of these things are now bonuses. It's like, oh yeah, I hope this person's really difficult today, right? It's kind of the attitude Marcus Aurelius has in Meditations, when he talks about, I wake up every morning and I imagine that everyone's going to be a jerk, and they're going to smell, and they're going to be obnoxious and treat me like shit, and all these things. And it's the same kind of idea. But when you do that and you change and you decide what the meaning is, everything changes, right? And even in this circumstance, I know when not that I want there to be a pandemic, but when I experienced a lot of the losses from this initially, I thought, all right, here we go. This is going to be fun. Like, this is interesting. Now we get to see, like, let's see, this is a new game. The old game was to build my fleet, right? Now the new game is put out the fires on the boats, and let's make some really efficient boats, right? Instead, I had to change the game, right? And I think that's the key, is like, you change what the meaning is, right? Because if you're viewing the meaning as, oh shit, I'm not growing anymore, oh shit, I'm losing stuff, then every day is a shitty day. Every day you're like, fuck, it's worse. Well, how long is the shutdown gonna go on, right? But if every day it's like, all right, the enemy attacked us today, and look what we did today. Fuck, we not only did we survive the attack, today we put up a win on the board today. It's a small win, sure, but we did not go down today. And that's, now it's, everything's different. Now it's like, all right, we're in battle, and this is, it's actually a good thing, as opposed to when your viewpoint is you're losing, you're not going to be mentally tough. You're not going to be able to survive it. You're going to be down in the dumps every single day.
Yeah, a part of me was really disappointed when the president announced all of these aids and all of these things for the businesses and for people. I'm like, dude, let's play it like it is. Let's play it as, like, what's up with all this aid? That's not how a capitalist system was designed to be. Like, let the dice roll as it may, and let the strong survive in terms of business. What's with this, like, handing out money to people and all that stuff? Well, that's just, in some ways, that's part of me that's just it's time for testing. What are you doing? Like, that's what I'm thinking. Like, why? No, don't do it. Let's just play it. Let's play all the way. Let's see how many businesses, and let's see how many online businesses will survive this. That's what I was thinking. Like, I was like, nah, don't give money, man. Let's play it now. This is what we were all made for. This is what, this is the battleground. This is what soldiers want to be in. We don't make it easy for us. So it's fascinating how you can literally retrain. Like, over time it changes. The more you do these things, the more you start to see life in a different perspective. Because you just, the more you read about these things, the more you study these things, the more it changes your perspective on how you approach every single step of life.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you come to the point where you start to bring the challenges upon yourself. And I think that's really, really the key. At least one of the keys I discovered in developing mental toughness is bringing pain upon yourself purposely. Right. And again, this another Stoic practice of purposely suffering. Right. But not really suffering. Right. In that case, it's bringing pain upon yourself. Right. They would go without food or go in shabby clothes or, basically like depriving themselves in order to experience the worst so that they could see it's not that bad and to toughen themselves against that. And that's something that I found that really builds up that mental toughness, right? So like I'm training for an ultra marathon right now, so I'm going to be running a 50-mile race in 8 weeks, and it's like why am I doing that? I'm not going to win any money. I'm not going to win the race, right? It's arguably not the best way to get in shape, because it will actually probably damage the body doing a 50-mile race rather than help. It's probably unhealthy for you to some degree, but why? Because I know that training and making myself do this will make me mentally stronger. And if I bring that pain upon myself now, then I'll be prepared to handle the pain that's going to come upon me involuntarily later. And I think that's the key in developing the mental toughness. And a lot of the books that we talked about, Obstacles Away, Man's Search for Meaning, a lot of them have that sort of built into it. Or what's his, the big guy on it is David Goggins. Where's his? Oh yeah, It Can't Hurt Me. I got that right there.
Can't Hurt Me.
Yeah. So he calls it callousing the mind.
One of the greatest. Another one. Remember, callousing the mind. Yes, that's right. Callousing the mind is like such a beautiful concept, because it stuff like this is another opportunity to callous your mind. It's not the easy times when you somehow will callous your mind. It's the hard times that will really, really, really callous your mind. We've had it easy for the last 10, 12 years. And people have become soft as a result of it, right? People, businesses, whatever you want to call it, careers, all sorts of things. And I take it on myself too. I probably got soft as a result of all of that. Easy, how life was easier because of everything that had happened in the last 10, 12 years. So in some ways, this involuntary pain that has been brought upon us is like, you train in the gym for years so that when really shit hits the fan, you can handle that, right?
Exactly.
When you really need to run 10, 15 miles, or you really need to go do something physically requiring, you will be able to handle it. These things you bring upon yourself on a day-to-day basis, hopefully, are things that will make you so tough that you can handle anything in life. And that's part of like reading these books and thinking through them and trying to figure out how you apply the principles to your life, to your everyday day-to-day activities. And you can literally every single day it's an opportunity to either build mental toughness, build that resilience, build that strength. It's a mindset. You constantly are like exposing yourself to new books, new ideas, figuring out new ways to trigger that response in your brain.
Exactly. Yeah.
That response.
So let's see. So what are some of the what else would you put in there for some of your favorite books? I got a few.
Oh yeah, Make Your Beds by William Mcraven. We're talking about it. Remember, we talked about both of them, but let's talk about them. Let me switch over to my hotspot and take a look.
Okay, yeah. Maybe you should switch over to your hotspot. It's starting to get a little bit bad now. It was all right before, but while you're doing that, I'll talk a little bit about. Actually, I'll answer a couple of questions here that someone had here. So what's up, guys? I'm just checking through your messages now. What's up, Joseph? Honest graduate. Nelson, what's up? What is up, guys? Dark Blacks. Manuela, nice to see you. Brett, what's up, guys? All right, so let's see. We got a couple of questions here. Trying to find the ones. Oh, here, I'll just address this one. So CA says, in somewhat of a cynical tone, I imagine him sitting behind his computer and just going like this. How can you agree with the statement if you applied for the SBA loan? Oh, so the statement that thinks that I'm welcoming hard times and that they make you stronger and that we should just let businesses fail. I totally agree with that statement. At the same time, I'll tell you that it would be stupid if free money is being handed out to compensate you for the bullshit that's going on with the lockdown. It's just foolish to not go and get money that is available to you. That would be stupid. So you can both agree with the statement that giving out free money should not be happening, but at the same time, go and take the free money. It doesn't violate a principle. It's the same thing as, I guess you could say, if you're playing a game, let's say you're playing a board game, and the rules of the board game, let's say Monopoly, okay? And the rules of the board game in Monopoly, it says that if you land on a property, right, and you don't buy it, it goes to auction. That's what the actual rules say. So someone can bid for that property. Now, in my opinion, it's a stupid rule because you end up selling every single property on the board. I don't like the rule. It's kind of retarded, and I can take advantage of that rule if I just don't think it's a very good rule, right? So, but if someone else lands on a property and they can't afford it, let's say Boardwalk, and it goes to auction and no one has the money and I've got the money, I'm going to take advantage of the situation. I'm going to arbitrage and take that and buy it for cheap because I've got the cash on hand. So just because you believe something shouldn't happen doesn't mean that you shouldn't take advantage of a situation that is presented to you. That would be stupid to not be opportunistic in that case, right? If people are handing out free money.
Because ultimately, it's your money. It's really your money that's being handed out again. It's not like the money is coming from anywhere else. It's just my money and your money that's been diluted, and then it's being handed out all over again to everyone. So it's not like they're printing new money. It's just that it's being redistributed. It's the redistribution of wealth that's going on. That is what probably John and I were not big fans of. I'm sure John is not, and I know I'm not either, in the way it's happening. But it's happening. So whatever it is, if it's going to happen, someone's taking my money, so might as well take my money, right?
Exactly.
That's the ethic of business. Like, if you're going to redistribute wealth, I'm going to take my money too. So hopefully now the connection will be better.
Yeah. One more quick question here that someone had. Just trying to make sure I address some of that. So Jim wanted to know, how do you train for a marathon during lockdown? Well, most lockdowns, I mean, it depends on where you live. I mean, there's some countries where you can't go out of your home. Fortunately, in the U.S., I don't think we'll ever lose that right. Well, we will, but if we lost that right, there's a lot of people in Texas with guns. But regardless, I just run in the alleyways. You got to make it happen, right? Even if I were locked down in my house, even if I could not leave my house, and I'll tell you, I've already made this decision. I've said it before. If it came down to it, where they said you cannot leave your home, they will have to shoot me, because I will not give up that. That's where I draw the line, right? Everyone has where they draw the line. But let's suppose that they did shoot me. I would run whatever I have to do, right? If you're in a country where you can't leave your home, then run around your home, run up and down your stairs, whatever it's going to be that you can. There's no excuse. There's no excuse to not train. If you're training for a marathon, you're going to find a way. Right now, for me, all I got to do is go outside and run in the alleyways. I can't run on the path. I'm just running on the street. I'm just making a path wherever I need to, running in traffic if I have to, in order to get my miles in to train for it. So this is kind of, one of those things. Like, the victim mindset says, oh, I'm in lockdown, I can't train for a marathon, right? But, if you want to have mental toughness, you figure out a damn way. How are you going to make it happen, right? There's a way. There's always a way to make it happen, right? So.
Yeah, it's going back to like the books that we were talking about. Unless you have other questions you want to address, one of the books I don't know we were talking about in the gym one time was "Make Your Bed" by William Mcraven, who's an ex-Navy SEAL, right? And he was an admiral at one time, and he talked about the circus. So here's how it used to happen in
Oh
his, Navy SEAL boot camp days. Uh, if you were the last in the day's drills, if you and your comrades were the last in the races or in the calisthenics or whatever the day's drill was, if you were last, you had to stay back for another 2 hours, and they would make you do push-ups and sit-ups and runs and deep runs and swims and all sorts of things for 2-3 hours, just because you were last, you failed, and they would put you in what's called the circus, quote unquote the circus, which is literally, if you're the last, you're going to suffer for 3 more hours. You're going to be put through 3 more hours of pain in Navy SEAL training, right? Now what happens when you were last and now you suffered for 3 hours and your muscles are sore and you're tired as hell, and now your abs are sore, your chest is sore, your legs are sore because you put an additional 3 hours compared to everyone else. Well, the next day again, you are in the circus.
Right.
Again, the circus is the guys who are last on any given day drill, they are in the circus, and they basically have to do um, all sorts of physical activities, like really grueling physical activities. And this keeps on going on, right? That's what happened with Mcraven. Like he kept on like going through the circus every single day, because once you start falling behind, and every day now you're getting even further behind, because you're still behind, and now you're even more tired, and the next day you're even more tired, and the next day you're even more stressed out, and next day your body is still like weak, and like, or not weak, quote unquote, okay, just to be clear, it's not weak, it's just tired from all the day's activity before, and it's happening again and again. But at some point, magic happens.
Yeah.
When the guys who are in the circus actually turn out, their performance starts to go up, and before you know it, they go to the top of the class, because the circus actually forces you to build that muscle. The obstacle, the challenges force you to get stronger.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of counterintuitive, right? To think that if you're last, then, but you're having to do more work. So you're having to, and that's, I think that's one of the keys, is when you're facing a difficult time, is to make it more difficult. It's very counterintuitive, but when you do that, like, well, for example, one thing that I think we've both talked about before is the idea of putting constraints on ourselves, right? When you apply constraints to yourself, when you limit your abilities, then you actually perform better, right? When you make things tougher for you, it actually results in better performance rather than when they're easier, right? When it's super easy, I think a lot of people don't realize when they have the freedom, they're like, oh, well, you know what? If I didn't have to work, and I could just quit my job, and I could just whatever, and I had time or money or all these things, then I could really be productive. And what they find is the exact opposite happens, is that the constraints were the things that were actually keeping you in line, and that you have to build constraints for yourself. And I think that's part of developing that mental toughness, is developing those rules for yourself, is pushing yourself, making something. It's, again, going back to the obstacle is the way. It's something to push against. You have to have something to push against, otherwise you will not grow stronger.
Yeah, there was a really interesting book. Which one was it? Where there was this quote from a Nobel laureate. It wasn't a quote. He actually won the Nobel Peace Prize, and he was a game theorist. I don't remember the name of the guy. Maybe Albert. But the game theory, like his analysis, ultimately what he said was, in game theory, the side that forces itself to have more constraints will actually win in any contest.
Yeah.
So when you voluntarily increase the number of constraints, or you voluntarily constrain yourself, you actually win the contest. Now, let me tell you the story of Hernan Cortes. Right, Hernan Cortes came to the Mexican, what's now known as modern day Mexico. He and his warriors, like, they came in ships from Spain to land on modern day Mexico back in 1400s. And Hernan Cortes realized that they were outnumbered around 4-1 or something like that. In the sense, the Mexican local army was 4 times bigger than Hernan Cortes's warriors who had come down from Spain. So these guys came in a boat, came all the way. They land on hostile land, which is now modern day Mexico, 600-700 years ago. Probably, I don't remember, 1100 or 1400, something like that. I'll do the research on that. And what happened was, when he landed, he realized, because we're outnumbered, what do? Well, he goes and burns his boats.
Yeah.
He doesn't say, hey, let's keep our boats alive so we can run away. He says, shit, we're outnumbered. We're going to burn our boats, because that's going to be the advantage, because now there's only one way out, and which is to win. There's
Yep.
no other way, and there's no other possibility. There's no way out. As soon as you give people ways out, as soon as you make it easy for them, people will take it easy. People will take the easy way. It's true for human beings. That's what Hernan
Yep.
Cortes did. He literally said, hey, burn the boats. As soon as he landed and he realized the army, like the opponents were so big, he said, burn our boats. Either we win or we perish. There's no running away. There's no going back. And when you now imagine what happens when you are playing with that kind of force, when you're playing with that kind of mental mental force, what do you do to the opposing side? The opposing side can still run away into the jungles and forests and hide and do all those things because they have their whole land. But here you are, you're like, either we kill, either we win or we perish. There's nothing else we have. We're gonna fight to death. Well, that's when you win. These obstacles, these challenges are supposed, this is what, this is the game of life. This is the ultimate game of life in some ways. This is where the big boys come to play.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's very true. And imagine also your opponents, when they see you burning the boats, now they know you're not giving up. They know there's no chance of scaring you. There's no chance of you being a coward. You only have one option. And I think that's also sends a very clear message. But we have to do that ourselves. We have to be willing to burn the boat. That's that whole idea we've been talking about. Perhaps the most powerful concept in the universe is fully committing to things, right? This idea that like once you fully commit to things, and I think that's been the key for most of the things that I've succeeded at. It's like, even, I'll compare it to the training I'm doing now, running for that, training for that 50-mile race. There's no question that I'm going to run the 50-mile race. Like, it's like, if I put it up in the air to say, am I going to do this or not? Then every day I would have to look at what I'm supposed to run, and I would make a decision whether or not, or someday when I'm running, an 18-mile run, 15 miles into it, I might be like, man, I'm really not feeling good today. I think I'm just going to call this run. I'm just too tired. But if I've fully committed 100%, I've burned the boats, then there's no choice. I'm going to do it. So it's going to happen, and I don't make that choice anymore. And I think that's one of the key things. We can kind of use that as a hack to develop our mental toughness, because it makes us tougher than we appear. It's like boosting our toughness, because we don't have to use as much willpower. Instead, we have no choice. So.
Yeah, willpower is the construct of the conscious mind. But as soon as you get into extreme commitment, where it's a complete do or die situation, that is when your subconscious takes over, and it'll do anything in its power, everything in its power to sustain you. So the subconscious mind is way more powerful than the willpower, like your conscious mind ever will be. And that's where, the concept of commitment is so critical. Let me give you the story. Like, we're talking about layoffs, we're talking about people losing jobs and all those things. That's going to happen. I'm going to go back to 2004. This is my first job out of grad school in Austin, Texas. I go into my office on a nice, beautiful August summer morning, and my director calls me into his office, and he's like, hey, we're sorry, we have to lay you off. I'm like, what? Shit, I'm going to get laid off. Oh, no. And in that moment, I'm like, okay, I got laid off, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't really think much about it until I walk out of the office and I tell one of my friends, he's like, oh, no, man, this sucks, because now you have 30 days to find a job, find another engineering job, or you will have to leave the country because you're an H-1B visa. I'm like, oh, man, that sucks. 30 days, that sounds really small. That sounds really short. What do I do? Right? So a bunch of us got laid off at the same time. A lot of my American friends and friends from all over, the world, really. There was probably around 60, 70 of us who got laid off. Now, there were a few of us who were immigrants who had this fire, who had H-1B visa, and they're like, okay, either, I need to find a job. We need to find a job, and there's no other way out. Now, everyone took it differently, right? When I heard about it, I felt like a failure for a few hours. I went home and I was really down on myself. And then one of my friends who was also an H-1B, he's like, oh, are you selling your car? Are you like trying to, find this or that? I'm like, hell no, I am just looking for a job. He's like, what do you mean? You only have 30 days. I'm like, so what? I'm giving it everything I got. And if that fails, so be it. But I ain't selling my car and selling houses and putting I ain't playing the easy game here. Like, I ain't playing the cop outs here. I'm going all in. I'm going guns blazing. I'm putting it all on the line here. Right. So, and then there's another American friend of mine, or not another, there's an American friend of mine. He's calling me. He's like, hey man, let's go grab some coffee. Let's talk about this and that. I'm like, no. I have no time for that. I have time to go write my resume. I have a 30-day clock here. I have to write my resume, and tomorrow I'm going to start applying. He's like, what do you mean tomorrow you're going to start applying? I'm like, I don't have time. He's like, no, man, you got to make your resume really nice and neat, and at least give it a week to really I'm like, no, dude, you have the time. I don't, right? There's no 37 days just tidying up my resume. I'm applying tomorrow. And I start applying for jobs, and I'm, shaking it up. I'm getting interviews, and all of this shit is going down, right? 30 days later, here's the funny thing, man. I got 3 job offers. One from Nokia in San Diego, one from another company in Austin, and one from another company in Bay Area. These 2 companies are called Harmonic, Lifesize. So 3 different offers in software. Now, is the amazing part. In 30 days, because I had a gun to my head and I had no way out, I was not going to just get kicked out. That was unceremonious. That's disrespectful. If I'm going to go on my own accord, not get kicked out. That just sounds horrible, right?
Right.
That sounds like it's a gun to me. That's an ultimate gun to my head when someone says, hey man, find a job or get the hell out. Come on, right? But here's the other side of this equation. I had some immigrant friends who literally started selling their houses and cars. And because that's the way they approached it, they literally did not get a job and they had to go back. And they're the ones who were later saying, oh my God, this is horrible. This 30-day, 60-day rule, whatever, it's stupid. I'm like, it's not. It's the best thing. It'll toughen you up. It'll make you the man that you've never wanted to become. Yeah. Another side of this equation, I had my American friends. What did they do? Well, they had unemployment. They had, benefits, unemployment benefits for 6 months. They didn't have to hustle to find jobs. They didn't have to work hard to find these jobs. What happened to them? They took 4 months, 5 months, 6 months to find a damn job, man. Why? Yeah. Because there were options available to them. So it's so unfortunate. That's why I'm kind of against what Trump did with doing this redistribution of money and handing out money to everyone and doing hey, don't worry, we'll take care of you, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, you're making people weak. You're making people soft. Don't do this. Let people toughen up. This is because I've been there, and I've been there 3 different times, not once, not twice, 3 different times, 30 days, find a job, leave the country. Every time, gun to my head. One time I found 3 job offers. The next time I found 5 job offers. It's not such a big deal when the gun is really to your head and the boats are burned and you have no option. You really have to get down to business and you find ways, man. That's when people become entrepreneurial. That, people get business ideas when things are really hard, not when things are handed out on a silver platter. People don't really become creative when things are given so easily. When things are hard is when people do their very best. And that's why the commitment, I was committed to the cause. I was committed to getting a damn job in 30 days.
Yeah.
But when you make it easy for people, well, there is no commitment.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. And that's why, we should welcome hard times. We actually need those things in order to make us better. I've got a similar story when I was I was playing poker. I was kind of semi-professionally playing poker at some point, and I was playing a lot of online poker. I stopped playing because I realized it doesn't serve any purpose in life. But at one point, my ambitions were to like just do this full time, and I was doing good for a while. I was making a lot of money every month. And then I got to the point where it was too easy to make the money, and I started getting lazy and sloppy. And pretty soon I was getting to the point where, I was like, oh shit, I'm putting money on my account every month. I'm putting money into I was loading it up, like putting $500 on my account. And I'm like, cause I got so cocky, I'd won all this money. And then one day I was like, you know what? Wow, how's this going to stop? I was trying to become tough and disciplined and play disciplined poker again, which is critical because it's very mathematical. It's very much making emotionless choices. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't get myself to do it. And I just kept on losing. And it was because I was just not patient, right? And so what I did was I got to the point where I had 10 cents left on my account. All right. And I was about to put $500 on there and say, okay, John, this time you're going to play smart. You're going to do a good job. You're going to do like you used to. You're going to follow your rules. You know how you're supposed to play, and you're going to be disciplined, and you're not going to waste this $500. And then I said, no, actually, John, what you're going to do is this. You're not going to put the $500 on. You're going to play with 10 cents. And I played with 10 cents. At that time, there was poker games where the blinds were 1 cent, 2 cent. Right. So you could play for 10 with 10 cents. And I played the best. And I told myself, you're never putting any more money on. This is all you get, 10 cents. That's it. And I played the best I could possibly play, trying to preserve that 10 cents, right? Trying to grow that 10 cents as much as possible. And within about a week, I had 50 cents. And it was such an accomplishment to get to 50 cents there. Right? I had 5 times what I had initially on there. And then, and I kept on growing it, and I kept on playing it, those constraints that forced me to like, this is it, right? I have no other choice. And eventually I grew that up to $10,000 over 3 months, and then cashed out. And then I ended up quitting poker. But wow. From 10 cents to $10,000. And I couldn't do it when I was putting unlimited money onto the account. It was only when I finally decided to basically what we're saying here, burn the boats, to say, this is it, put myself into a corner and force myself. That's when I performed. And that, because I forced myself to go through that hardship, it made me a better player. Not only did it make me a better player, it made me a more disciplined person. That was one of the things that actually led to some of my other successes in life, is because having gone through that experience and forcing myself to go through that, it made me stronger in many other areas, and being able to focus and be disciplined and to be emotionless when it comes to making decisions. And that's, so you need that. You need those resistances. You need those challenges, and you need to commit to it in order to develop that mental toughness.
Yeah, and unfortunate truth today is that 90 to 95, probably to 99% of the people out there are just not, they don't relish these tough times. They don't want these tough times. They cannot handle these tough times. Maybe they don't have the mental tools to handle these tough times. I don't know what it is, but most people fall apart in face of challenges and obstacles like this. They are, they are complaining. They are bitter. They are pissed off about everything. Someone's complaining. Someone's blaming China. Someone's blaming 5G. Someone's blaming this. You can blame all you want. Don't do any good to anyone. The only thing you can do is really do your own work and get down to business and get stuff going. And that's where like the tools of mental toughness are so crucial, because people will default to the easy way of life, the easy thinking way of life, not to the hard thinking way of life, which is, let's go attack the shit. Let's go make this better than before, right? Well, most people's meaning in this crisis is, will I survive this? Will I be able to take care of my family? Will I have a job at the end of this? Will my business actually be okay? Or, these questions, the meaning that you're attributing to this life is the crisis is horrible for me. This crisis is bad for me. This crisis is going to wipe me out, or this crisis is going to render me homeless, or anything. your perspective and your analysis, your questions, your meaning is going to dictate what's going to happen,
Yeah.
right? It's the mental tools, whether you can, you can choose to apply the wrong mental tools and screw up your life completely as a result of this crisis, or you can choose to apply the right mental tools, the right mental toughness thinking to transform your life.
Yep. Yep. So let's talk about a couple more books here, and then we should probably get wrapping this up. We're already didn't realize we could talk about this all day. We're already an hour in,
Yeah,
but one of the ones that I really like a lot is Relentless by Tim Grover, just because it paints that picture of what it is to be a cleaner versus a closer, and the idea that the differences between those, and to me that's the cleaner is the mentally tough person. That's the real mental toughness, the person who it doesn't matter, like they just see that they must do it, that they don't consider failure a possibility, right? That they take extreme ownership for everything that in life, and their team and everyone involved, that they take that full accountability. I feel like that's a really good book, because when you understand what it takes, is he coached Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant and yeah, and since those guys were at the top of their game, like those guys have extreme mental toughness, and so you're looking at the person who in some ways helped them to develop some of that mental toughness.
Yeah, the Relentless book is so good, because the guy, he literally tells you that, hey, if you want to play the big game in life, you're gonna have to take complete ownership of what you are, what you're gonna do in life. And in times like crisis, like the crisis of right now, most people are not going to take ownership. Most people are going to say, this is not my fault. This is someone else's fault. I'm a victim. And as soon as you do that, my friends, it's game over.
Yeah.
No matter whose fault it is, if you start if you say it's someone else's fault out there, it's game over for you.
Yeah.
So there's no messing around with this. Like Michael Jordan couldn't just say, hey, it's that player's fault, or that player's fault, or Kobe Bryant wasn't going around complaining. They were just like getting those guys into gear, saying, hey, time to step up, time to play better, time to go make this shit happen. They weren't just like, oh yeah, it's his fault, that's why we lost, blah blah. No, full blown responsibility. I'm gonna make this happen. I'm gonna go all in, and I'm gonna make this happen.
Yeah. No, that's key, because as soon as you blame, as soon as you choose yourself to be the victim, you lose all control, all sovereignty over the situation. 100%. Another one I liked is Resilience. That one I thought that was really good. Just the format that it's written in, and just the idea of, I think that's one that probably applies a lot right now, right? Because a lot of people are probably like the guy in Resilience, where they're feeling like their life is going, like all these bad things are happening to them, and and the advice, essentially that book's written to this war vet who just is down, feels down, and he's telling him, no, fuck it, get up, like you're not done, like keep on going, like you're being weak, like. And I think that's a message that a lot of us, because we want to have the excuse to be. In fact, I saw someone post on Instagram, they're like, all these people that are saying, like, use this time to build a business and use this time to get in shape and whatnot. They're just putting extra stress on you, that you should just be using this time to you're going through a hard time, and you should be using this time to take care of yourself and your mental health. And I was like, what the fuck? That is the totally wrong message. Totally wrong. Yes, you should be fucking building a business. Yes, you should be getting in shit. You should be getting your shit together right now, because this is the time. At any time, is opportunity, like to basically say, oh, things are bad, so I can indulge myself or coddle myself. That's the worst. If you want to develop mental toughness, that's the opposite. And I think Resilience is kind of fighting that, right? It's like fighting that battle of the person who wants to say, oh, it's so bad for me, so I should just take care of myself, versus I'm a fucking warrior.
Yeah, Resilience is so good. I mean, another Navy SEAL book, by the way. And one of the things I loved in the book, he talks about how one of the greatest driving forces in human nature is identity, right?
Yeah.
Identity is one of the most powerful forces in human nature, and it's up to us. We define our identity. We can, we can create our own identity. We can live true to our identity, and the identity you can choose. Hey, am I going to be a victim? Am I am I going to live life as a victim, or am I going to be, a warrior? Am I going to be a victor? I'm going to be winning no matter what. Your identity will define every step of the way, how you live your life, what you do with your life, right? So don't assume that just like the example John was giving, like that is the identity of a victim. That's the identity of someone who's like, oh, woe is me, things are hard, so I should take it easy on myself and not add stress to my system. That is a bad, like, that person's identity, you can tell. That's not John. John would never say shit like this. I would never say. That's a very different kind of person. That identity is a very different. It's not a bulldog identity. It's a different identity, right? So, is Arnold Schwarzenegger going to say that? Hell no, right?
No.
Is Tony Robbins going to say that? Hell no. These there is a very distinct identity, and you can choose. You can choose who you want to be, who you are going to be. When you look back 40 years from today at this, you can decide right now. You can decide how you're going to face this, because
Yeah.
that'll change, that'll affect your identity 40 years from today.
Arnold Schwarzenegger is actually a good example, because I remember, was it like maybe like 6 months ago? Remember that guy kicked him in the back? Remember that video of the guy, like,
No.
Arnold? I think he was in India. He was at like some
What?
sports event, and this guy
No.
like jump kicked Arnold. It might have been South Africa. It's either India or South Africa. I can't remember. He jump kicks Arnold in the back. Now this is Arnold. I mean, this is like 6 months ago. This is old Arnold, right? I mean,
Yeah, 70-year-old.
and it basically, you watch the video and Arnold just kind of like, I mean, he took a hit. He like, right, and then he just like looks back, and then he just carries on with his. And then he was interviewed afterwards, right? And they're showing this clip of this guy drop kicking him, like literally jumping up in the air, taking both feet and planting them into Arnold Schwarzenegger's back, right? 70-year-old man, right? And when he's watching the clip, right, and they're interviewing him, they're like, oh, so what were you thinking when that guy kicked you in the back? How did it feel? You know? And Arnold's like, oh, I did he kick me? I didn't notice. He's like, I mean, clearly he's, but he's like, I didn't notice. Like most people would have gone on camera and be like, I can't believe that guy kicked me in the back. What an asshole. I'm 70 years old, man. My back hurts. I had to go to the hospital. Arnold's like, did the guy kick me? I didn't see a guy kick me. I didn't feel anything. Just felt like someone tapped me. Right. He's obviously was in pain. I mean, it hurts to get kicked, but he won't be a victim. He won't allow it. He won't allow the media to point the narrative. He won't allow someone to make him into the victim, which is key.
Yeah. And that's the key to handling this situation right now. For anyone who's thinking, oh, being a victim will allow you to thrive in this situation, man, being a victim will take your job, it will take your business, it will take your life. So don't become a victim right now. Like, this is probably the most important thing I can tell you. Don't let this crisis make you a victim in your life. Do whatever you can to get out of the victim mindset, because if you assume the identity of the victim, you will play it out.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now is a good time to start to do, whatever it is. Like, use this as an opportunity. Use this as that resistance we were talking about, the obstacle to push against. Okay. So if you lost your job, all right, great, good. That means that, what is that? If that hurts, that means, what do you not have? You don't have some other streams of income. You should have set that up. No need to regret it now, but damn, use this as an opportunity to motivate your ass to start that business, to get in there and to start building a business or building some other passive, some kind of stream of income. Okay, so maybe then you need to go and find another job. Here's an opportunity to brush up on your skills and to find even a better job, right? Maybe you'll be stuck in that job forever if you didn't lose your job. So this is a good opportunity. All right, so you're stuck in your house. All right, well, you have some time on your hands. So now's the time to get the 6-pack abs. Start working out. Start, doing something with that time that you can, it's funny. I posted, I don't know if you saw the Instagram post that I made. I'll read it to you. I thought this was funny, but it's so true. Because I was thinking about this because someone was complaining to me the other day, and I hate when people complain to me because it's the stupidest fucking thing, as if I'm gonna pay attention to some stupid complaint. Okay, so what do they say? Yeah. So okay, so first you were complaining about not having enough time to work out or start a side business. Now you're complaining about being stuck home and bored. The problem is you, motherfucker. The problem is you.
Right.
And that's the thing. That's the thing. So use this time, guys. Use this time to read some books, to build up your mental toughness here, and then you'll come out of this stronger. You'll be so much mentally strong, and you'll be playing life on easy mode. So and we've got here, of course, Manny. I put a link. There should be a link here at the bottom if you want to get Manny's mental toughness pack, where he goes over these books. He's got summaries on all these books. A lot of the concepts here, by the way, that we've come up with, that we talk about, that have helped us develop mental toughness, they've come from things that Manny and I have both read. A lot of these same books, some of the books that we've mentioned here, and that's the key. I mean, what was it? There's a good quote that's like, even a dwarf is taller standing on the shoulders of a giant, right? Or sees further. Even a dwarf sees further. I can't remember the exact quote, but essentially what it means is that like you need other people and their ideas, and when you utilize all those, then you can even be greater than they were, than the people who originally came up with the ideas. But you have to get those from somewhere, and a lot of what I've used to develop my mental toughness has come from reading books, from following the people there. And so
Yeah, and to add to what John's saying here, the mental toughness course is literally summaries of the 40 greatest books on building mental toughness. 40 greatest books on all sorts of principles of mental toughness, whether you're talking stoicism, whether you're talking warrior mindset, Navy SEALs, building books on overcoming obstacles and challenges, becoming mentally indestructible, books like Seneca and Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus and all of the different stoicism books, performing at your best under pressure and stress books on that, building a warrior mindset, different, like Kobe Bryant's biography that he wrote himself, a lot of different books. I have summarized all of those in the mental toughness book summary pack. So it's around 250 great ideas on building mental toughness. We talked about maybe 5 or 10 of those in the interview so far, but yeah, 250 great ideas on building mental toughness. And John and I, what we do most of the times at the gym when we're working out, not right now, is we talk about these books and we talk about these ideas, and we just keep, so these are what I've done is literally created video summaries of these 40 greatest books on building mental toughness. And right now, I think the first 50 people who use the coupon code Bulldog10 can get 40% discount on this course. So you can check out some of the videos, check some of the sample videos from the course right here by going to the link that John has dropped there, and see if this is good for you. But I know that these are the best of the best books that are out there on building mental toughness. And right now, in these times, you want to go develop this skill of mental toughness so you can handle the shit that's coming. We're just getting started with what has happened so far, and we all need the tools to be really tough right now to handle life's challenges that are coming our way.
And then I just dropped a link in the chat for you guys if you want to get in, and make sure you get in on the coupon if you want to be one of the first ones to get in there. So, but yeah, it's really critical right now to develop that, to develop mental toughness. That's why we're talking about this right now, is because, this is the time, right? This is, in fact, everyone that's been joining Bulldog Mindset membership, I usually record a personal video for them. And one of the big things I'm saying is, hey, look, guys, like this is this is when it counts, right? This is a time more than ever, because the world is changing, and it's going to require you to be, you could get away being weak in the last, decade or two. Heck, you could be a shitty investor, you could be a shitty business person, right? There's a lot of things that you could do and be weak and not mentally strong, and you're going to get taken care of. But you know what? That's going to change if things get bad economically, right? We're looking at potentially, I mean, hopefully things aren't so bad, but some people are comparing this to potentially worse than the Great Depression, with the unemployment rate being that high. It could happen, right? Maybe it doesn't, and hopefully it's not that bad, but it could. And if it does, are you ready? Are you ready mentally to be prepared? I mean, if the shit that's happening now, let me just say this, okay? I know some of you are going to be offended by this, but you're weak, all right? And you need to hear it. But if the shit that's happened now at this scale, if you're trembling in your boots right now, if this is hard for you to stay home, like you feel like this is bad, you're fucking weak. Like, cause this ain't nothing. This is not like and I'm not saying this because I'm such a badass. I'm saying this because historically, as a civilization, as humanity has gone through so many worse times than this. Like, I mean, even just in the last 200 years, right? Even the last, when the Spanish flu and stuff, that was way worse than this. You think about the world wars in the last 200 years, World War I and World War II, hundreds of millions of people dead over the course of those wars, right? You think about all of those things, that the Great Depression, and historically, and you think that this is tough, you're weak. You need to be stronger, right? So things probably are going to get worse. And if you're having trouble right now, I'm not trying to be a total dick, but I'm just saying you got to get stronger. There's no question about it. This should be nothing at this point for you. And if it is, then that's fine. It's good to know it, right? But that means that you need to really work on developing that mental toughness. I don't know. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, no, absolutely, man. I mean, we're living in times of crisis, and that's okay. We're gonna go through this. All of us are gonna go through this. Some will emerge as victors. I would say maybe 1 to 5% of people will really thrive in this situation, but 90% of people will emerge as victims. And the choices for all of us to make: are we going to be victims, or are we going to be victors? And that's where our application of all these things, our mental models, will really be tested. Our mental thinking models will really be tested in these trying times. And some will be winners, and most will be victims as a result of this. It's unfortunate. I don't want to. I'm not trying to preach and say, "Hey, look at me, and I'm so good, and everyone else." No, we're just looking at the trends, and we've seen the world and how people behave most of the times. Most people just want life to be easy, and those are the people that are going to get wiped out economically, because they are going to play the victim card all the way.
And I'll say, just to put a good spin on this, as we'll wrap this up in a second here, but I would say this: like, this is a great opportunity right now, right? Just like we talked about earlier. And I'm not saying that just as a super optimist. I'm saying this is really a great opportunity, because a lot of people are going to get shaken out of their trees, right? A lot of fat cats are going to go to the slaughter, and it's because they're not going to be strong enough. And so if you're the kind of person that can stick this out, that can survive, that can keep your wits about you, right, then you're going to do well. And I'll just give you an example from my own life and from business here. I took some pretty big hits. So actually, in the last 365-day period of time, like 1 year period, everything from the Twitter storm going down and losing my books and Pluralsight courses that I was generating royalties to, a couple $100,000 smack right there. And then what happened with the market here and my bad timing, and I've got a lot of real estate. Okay. So I've taken a lot of smacks, and one of the things that the reason why I'm here and why I will succeed and why I will come out of this even stronger is because when I took those smacks, a lot of people, I think, that maybe lost, I don't know, $200,000 in a couple of days, they might probably just like crawl into a ball under their desk and not work on their business anymore and just be just upset or stop running or stop, doing. I just live my life as normal. I'll tell you 100%. I just said, hey, that's just what happened. And I just got right back to making videos, right back to working, and I'm working hard. Now, maybe I'm working a little harder than I normally would be, but that's what I'm doing, right? And that's the thing. And that's why being mentally tough, again, I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but I just want to give you a real concrete example from my life. But that's why being mentally tough, that's why there's an opportunity here. And that's why it's so important, is because if you are like most people, and when you get hit, when you get punched, you just go down to the mat, right? And you don't continue to fight, you're going to get taken out. And most people are going to get taken out like that. And they're not going to continue. They take some kind of hit. They stop doing everything productive in their life. They stop eating healthy. They stop working out. They just go into depression and they give up and they stop fighting. And that's the key, is like so many people are going to do this. So this is where the opportunity is, because if you have 90% of the world taking a hit and they're just giving up, they're just lying down, and because of the bad things happening, it's taken all the fight out of them. But you're the person who stands, who's still standing. Sometimes you win just by still standing, right? I'll give you another quick poker, revelation that I had when I was first playing tournament poker. We used to play these 10-person sit and go tournaments, right? So you'd have 10 players, and you'd play this tournament for like $10, I think, when I was first starting to play. And when I first started to play the game, what I would do is I would bet aggressively. I try to win. I try to beat all 9 of my opponents. That was my goal, right? Beat all 9 of my opponents. Well, you know what would happen? Only the first 3 got paid, right? First place got paid $50. I think second place was $40, and then third place was the last $10, or maybe it was 50, 30, 20, whatever it was, 50, 30, 20. That makes sense. Okay, so only 3 places got paid. So I tried to beat every opponent, and 90% of the time I would get knocked out. I get knocked out in like 4th place most of the time, right? And then I realized that I didn't have to beat all my opponents. All I had to do was survive. So I stopped playing aggressively. The first few rounds of the tournament, I didn't play anything except for aces or ace king. Like, I only played the best possible hands. And you know what happened? Everyone else fought each other. Everyone else went in. And pretty soon, just sitting there doing nothing, if you sat there and did nothing, you didn't play one hand in the game, 90% of the time there'd be 5 players left. And you could just, right? So you would knock out half your opponent, and then you can start playing. Now you're playing against 5 people. So, and sometimes I swear there were some games where I literally just tested it, and I was like, what happens if I don't play one single hand the entire game? And I came in 3rd place. That's so amazing. So surviving, right, is key. And that's why, again, if you can just be strong enough to survive, sometimes you win by default. Winning by default is great. And that's what's happening here right now, I think, in society. We have this opportunity. Again, obviously, you want to be as strong as you can. But if you can just make it, if you have a business right now, if you can just keep on making your product or your YouTube videos, or you're writing your blog posts or writing that book or whatever it is, if you can just make it, you're going to come out. And for guys that are, in the dating thing, how many guys right now that were preparing for their summer abs are just eating all of their food storage and getting fat? You're going to be fucking jacked and ripped, and all your competition is going to be like, have dad bods. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, just surviving, just not getting fat is going to make you look so much better than the rest of the population. Like, there's so many things right now that just surviving, just being mentally strong enough to make it through, and you're automatic winner. That's the beauty of hard times. When it's good times, you got to fight it out. Everyone's got to fight it out, right? But when it's hard times, all you got to do is survive.
Yeah, and survival is it's quite an interesting battle in some ways, and it will test you. It will take everything you got at some point, because you cannot be the candle, right? You cannot be the candle. You have to become a forest fire, right? Candles will get wiped out. You have to become a forest fire. You cannot let someone just blow you out. You cannot just let someone throw a little blanket at it and it's wiped out. No, you got to be a fire And now, as the winds blow against you, as people throw stuff into you, you only get more inflamed, you only become stronger, and you will engulf everything. Like, that's the kind of attitude I want you to have when you become a badass at this, right? I want you to start thinking like you are a forest fire everywhere you go. Like every obstacle, you're going to go and demolish it rather than get scared of it. This COVID thing, just one more thing that your fire is going to eat up. That's
Yeah.
how I think of it. Let's go eat up this one more obstacle on the way to greatness. And yeah, go grab all the mental toughness tools that I have there for you, around 250 of the greatest ideas on building mental toughness right there. I think the coupon code is bulldog10 to get the discount, all one word.
Yeah,
The
I'll drop
description, it's in the description below.
I put the link in there again if you guys want to get it. So, okay, so we'll wrap this up real quick though. Last thing I think will be useful to you guys is let's go over like kind of what someone can take away from this, like the basic. What are the things people can do? Most effective things to develop mental toughness. You can give yours, and I'll give mine.
Wow. We talked about so many of them already, but if I were to sum it all up in or if I were to give one thing, I would go back to the idea of don't be a candle, become a forest fire. Literally, look at the obstacle as your way forward. Look at the obstacle as something that will inflame your fire, and find ways to do that. Once you choose that is the way you're going to approach this crisis, you're going to ask yourself, how can I become the forest fire rather than be the candle? Ask yourself this question every single day. How can I grow as a result of this crisis? How can I become better as a result of this crisis? How can I emerge stronger as a result of this crisis? How can I make my business better as a result of this crisis? Ask yourself questions that will change the trajectory of your life.
Yeah. Let's see. I would say, well, I'll start with this one, which is you can discipline the mind by disciplining the body. If you want to develop mental toughness, one great way is to push yourself physically. It will force you, right? Because you can, the thing about sometimes I think developing mental toughness is it's difficult to say, okay, I'm going to do this to develop mental toughness, right? Because what is the plan, the game plan you're going to lay out? But it's easy to make a physical game plan, right? So for example, like I said, I'm training for an ultra marathon for a 50-mile race. I know like today I'm going to run 11 miles. Okay. So that's going to be hard, but it doesn't matter because I can plan that out. And I know that will develop my mental toughness because I can work on my physical discipline. So sometimes we can translate that thing over. So I use that technique a lot. I do a lot of hard shit, when I'm eating one meal a day, when I'm doing fasting, all those things, like those are developing mental toughness, right? And it carries over to the work. And then the second thing I would say is, which we already have, right? Because someone said, well, how do you run during lockdown and all this stuff, is put constraints on yourself, make things harder for yourself, which we already have. Now you're in a good situation with this advantage with what's going on, where you only have limited options. So that's good. It's actually going to put constraints, force constraints on you, which will make you mentally stronger. Those constraints will make it so that you're going to force yourself to grow and be stronger. So utilize that time, utilize these constraints, study, learn, build a business, right? Do these things, force yourself to develop the discipline now by making yourself do things that you don't want to do. And I think that's kind of the third piece I'd say is make yourself do things that you don't want to do until you want to do them. And the more that you don't want to do them, the more that you need to make yourself to do them, right? And I can use the exact same parallel with running, right? I hated running. I hated it. And so what did I do? I made myself do more of it and more of it, to the point where now I'm a distance runner, and I shouldn't be a distance runner, but I love it now. I love running because I made myself do it when I hated it. And that's how you develop the mental because at some point, this is what happens. This is how you develop mental toughness. Your brain's like, fuck this shit.
It's a circus.
I don't like this shit. Exactly. It's like the circus, right? Your brain actually goes through it. And then it's like, fuck this shit. No, right? And then like you're forcing yourself to do more of it. And your brain's like, fuck this. And then pretty soon your brain's like, fuck, all right, fine. We're going fine. All right. I love it. Then I love it. Right. And it flips the other way, because it's like, because it, once it realizes it's futile to fight this, because you're like, no, you're going to do it, motherfucker. You are going to do this shit. Then your brain starts to go the other way. Then it's like, well, all right, fine. I'm getting on the bus. Everyone else is on the bus. I'm getting on the bus. So, you're dragging yourself behind on a chain, and then pretty soon you're leading, and that it flips over. Once your resistance realizes it's futile, then it flips the other way, and that's the key. Once you can overcome that point, so you have to push yourself to the point where you hit that flipping point, and if you don't do that, then you're not going to develop that toughness. But that's a circus, like Manny is saying, it's a circus. So
yeah, it is the ultimate circus of life.
All right, guys. Well, take care of yourselves, and stay safe, and get tough. Go check out the book summaries if you want, and yeah, and for you guys, I like to lead by example here, both Manny and I, because some of you are like, well, guys, why are you selling stuff? Because we're not giving up. Not fucking giving up. We're gonna still make our shit. We're still gonna build products. We're still gonna build our businesses, because we're not giving up.
And I'm gonna add to that. The reason why I'm selling right now is way too many people need this right now.
Exactly.
They need the mental toughness to get through this. Like, I am not quitting right now on you guys. Way too many people need these tools and techniques and tips and tools and strategies to handle. This is not the next 1 month or 2 months. I'm talking the rest of your freaking life to develop that mental toughness. I want you to become a forest fire. I don't want you to stop living life like a little freaking candle that's going to get wiped out. And these tools are going to help you do that. So I want you guys to have the best of the best tools. And the only way you're going to pay attention, the only way you're going to use these tools is if you pay for them. So that's why you need to pay for them.
True. Yeah, it's 100% correct. All right.
Yeah.
Take care, guys. Thanks a lot, Manny.
See you guys. Bye.